Hey all, JVH here. Alright, so apparently Kelly Osbourne is defending Ozzy Osbourne's legacy once again. Recently, a few days ago, Dee Snider was interacting with fans on Twitter, answering questions, and eventually Ozzy Osbourne was brought into the picture. Somebody basically tweeted about reading Ozzy's last rites. Oh, by the way, all my information, other than me seeing the actual thing on both X and Instagram, is most of my information is coming from the Loudwire article. Basically, it all kicked off with a tweet about somebody bringing up reading Ozzy's last rites and was stunned that Lemmy made more money off of the songs that he had written for No More Tears. Which that's a whole other conversation on its own. But Dee Snider responded and said, I know too much about the truth behind the scenes. Let's just say that Sharon doesn't like to share, referring to Sharon Osbourne, Ozzy's wife, who is known of being one hell of a manager throughout the history of rock and roll. So that's kind of what kicked things off. And that thread apparently continued on. Another person responded. Bob Daisley says he'd written a load of the lyrics, then was told they weren't needed for No More Tears, then he got sacked for the final time. Dee Snider responded, a load? How about all the lyrics? Ozzy always had bass players write his lyrics, and that is the thing that basically has taken the internet by storm, the rock internet by storm, in the sense that Dee Snider, lead singer of Twisted Sister, is not wrong. It's widely known that Bob Daisley contributed and wrote a majority, if not all, of the lyrics to the first two Ozzy solo albums. And then, of course, Geezer Butler writing a majority of the lyrics for the Black Sabbath era with Ozzy in it. Of course, Geezer Butler had stated before that he enjoyed having Ronnie James Dio as a lyricist, but he talked about rainbows a little bit too much sometimes. Dee Snider then goes on to respond to another tweet saying many singers don't write their own songs but make them their own. And that apparently had ticked off Kelly Osbourne, where Kelly immediately posted onto Instagram, my father's legacy as a musician, songwriter, singer, and band leader speaks for itself. His friends, those who worked with him, those who loved him, and millions of fans around the world that still continue to buy his records know exactly what he meant, what he contributed, and what he leaves behind. His legacy will live on eternally. I don't think Dee Snider meant any harm by what he was saying. Yeah, he took a shot at Sharon Osbourne a bit, but Dee Snider is speaking mostly facts. And this is a guy who knows what he's talking about, especially when it comes to lyrics and, of course, him testifying, trying to go and fight against the PMRC. Of course, that case ended up with giving us the parental advisory sticker on albums, but Dee Snider does know what he's talking about, so you got to give him a little bit of credit here. And once again, Kelly didn't call him out or anything in that post, but it was definitely about that. We could feel it. Skip to a little bit later. Kelly Osbourne then goes on to make another post, which is so long, and basically it kicks off with, there's something spectacularly classless about Dee Snider trying to diminish my father Ozzy Osbourne and his extraordinary abilities and achievements when he is no longer here to challenge his allegations. Yes, but I kind of feel like Dee Snider's not necessarily calling Ozzy out or anything to a, once again, known fact in rock and roll. I'm not trying to take away from Ozzy's singing ability or talent, but some of his most famous, his biggest hit, Mama, I'm Coming Home, written by Lemmy Kilmister. Like, you can't deny it. So Kelly Osbourne basically said, "All right, MFer, I'm coming after your career," and proceeds to roast both Dee Snider and Twisted Sister in here when it was really more of a thing of Dee Snider being stating a fact and Kelly going "F you," and Dee Snider being like, "I love Ozzy though." Currently in this world of music and entertainment and the influx of AI music and everything, it's fascinating to see what legacy truly means for a lot of these old artists. I see a ton of AI versions of covers of Ozzy covering some other song by using AI. And I don't think that necessarily tarnishes his legacy, but stating a fact about the history of the musicianship and the bandmates of who contributed to writing. Like, people sometimes forget, like, Ozzy was a singer, and that is what he contributed to these bands. That powerful voice was a sound of its own. Everybody who knows me knows my favorite guitarist ever is Randy Rhoads, of course, the guitarist on Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. And even then, when you look at that side of it, that was a guitarist writing some wild guitar riffs. Dee Snider was just pointing out facts on X, and of course, in the big 2026, everybody has to create everything into a fight. Does this diminish Ozzy as an artist in any way? No. I do think that the truth should be out there of how a lot of the music was developed, and of course the behind the scenes of things that Sharon Osbourne may have been doing at the time, outing the certain band members and bandmates, not getting paid, not getting credited. It could be a whole documentary, and I'm sure it will be, but the fact that Ozzy didn't write a ton of these songs doesn't take away from what Ozzy was able to do, you know? Ozzy built up a ton of careers, and I just watched Jack Osbourne's interview with Rob Trujillo from Metallica, and of course, formerly Ozzy Osbourne and Suicidal Tendencies, and that was such a good interview where Rob was talking about, just like any other time Jack interviews other artists, Rob was talking about how Ozzy always helped these young bands, always was putting these people on the pedestal because everybody wanted Ozzy Osbourne. Everybody wanted to see Ozzy Osbourne. They chant his name during the opener, but it helped a ton of other bands throughout history. And then, of course, the introduction of Ozfest and everything. Ozzy's been gone for a year now, and Ozzy became an icon and a symbol, and I don't think that talking about facts about the music and what happened behind the scenes, my favorite part about the music industry is learning the history of the behind the scenes and what was going on with the companies and everything. I don't think it diminishes Ozzy in any way as an artist. Ozzy's voice is iconic. His stage presence is iconic, and it's Ozzy Osbourne. There are plenty of singers who don't write every word they sing, and I think to Dee's point, we also have tons of ghostwriters in the first place, and now, especially more than ever, I'm sure there are lyrics flying around everywhere. I'm sure there's people generating lyrics to make these big hits that sometimes sneak their way past the system and get big on streaming and everything. It's a very strange time in music, but I enjoy watching what's going on. So basically, to wrap this up, yes, Dee Snider pointed out facts that bassists wrote most of the classic Ozzy Osbourne sang lyrics throughout his career, and Kelly Osbourne crashing out on Dee Snider and ripping into Twisted Sister's career. Even though Dee Snider is an Ozzy Osbourne guy. So I thought that was pretty fascinating that sometimes people are quick to jump, even though it's just a musical history and facts, quick to jump to the argumentative side and start a beef rather than just trying to actually state the historical truth about the music, which I'm sure is what young artists today want to learn from, is the history of music before we get taken over by the AI. Thank you all for watching today's Johnny Vaughn Hollywood video. I'll talk to you all soon. Good night, everybody!